We are joined on this episode by a PR account executive, publicist, and social media manager who has worked with Mile High Films, the band Itch.io, and a favorite event of this very podcast, the Telluride Horror Show. He is Travis Volz. Travis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Sean, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
No, we appreciate the time. We know that you're in a kind of a full-on blitz as we're recording this as a lead up to Telluride Horror Show, which, again, Becky and I were talking about. We've never really done a dedicated episode on it, and it's near and dear to not just Paper Street's heart, but obviously with Becky as the co-host. She and Brad have made a kind of a mainstay section of the festival, which we'll get into in a moment. But yes, we're very glad to have you on.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for giving us the platform. It's nice to step away from the social media platforms and the press releases for a few minutes to visit with you tonight.
Yeah, leave that to us, at least in the lead up to the fest. But yeah, we'll get into the show, of course, the festival. But we kind of always start off by going all the way back to the beginning and asking, what gave you, Travis, the bug for just film, entertainment, storytelling, genre, horror, whatever the main things you kind of got you into even the position you're in now as far as being a film lover and someone who works with a festival? Was there a person, an experience, a movie, something in pop culture early on that got you hooked in this?
Well, I've always been interested in film, and it caught me at an early age, especially the genre films. I think going back to, and I'm going to age myself a little bit, but watching some of the 70s classics of, The Omen and The Exorcist that, don't tell your mom that we're watching this, that kind of a thing with dad early on. So I think that just kind of grabbed me early on. But I would say like getting into the work of it and really representing some of these clients and Telluride Horror Show and working with some other film festivals in the past dates back probably 12 years, I think now. I was kind of going through a rough patch in my life, and a friend of mine who was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time told me to get around like-minded people. And so she knew I was into movies and especially indie film, and she encouraged me to reach out to the Denver Film Society. She said, if Louisville has a film society, I'm sure Denver does. And so I did. I reached out and offered to volunteer and thought, whatever, to be around folks at the theater, if it's taking tickets or sweeping floors, that's fine. And they saw something in my PR and marketing background with higher education, non-film related clients and stuff like that, they decided to have a conversation with me back in 2009. And now I'm realizing I did my math wrong. It's more like 14 years. And so it was with those folks there who gave me my first chance working with PR and marketing on the red carpet and doing the press kits and everything for the Denver Film Festival back then. And then that just sort of started the momentum. I was working with Mile High Horror for a little while. Denver had a horror film festival called Mile High Horror a few years ago. And then it was Brad McHargue who got me in touch with Ted Wilson at the Telluride Horror Show after I'd left Mile High Horror. And we had a conversation back in 2014, and I've been with them ever since. They're my favorite client. So I wish I could do the Telluride Horror Show year round for sure.
No, that's good to know. And thanks, Brad, for being the connective tissue to get you involved with it. And again, we're going to talk all about that, but I want to even go backwards a bit. Did you go to University of Kentucky for PR marketing? Did you go somewhere schooling around Kentucky?
I actually went to Northwestern College. It's in Iowa. It's a small liberal arts college. And I went for mass communications. At the time I started as pre-physical therapy. And I realized after getting a couple of B's in my science classes that I probably wasn't going to be a physical therapist. It was very competitive at the time, but I'd always had kind of an interest in mass communications, broadcasting, journalism. And so I kind of went that route. At first I was thinking maybe television broadcast. And then I started doing some writing for the college paper, and that kind of got me hooked in more of the written word in journalism and then PR. And so that's kind of where I got that start, and then moved to Seattle, Washington in the mid 90s, which was kind of a fun place to be. But I was painting airplanes for a few years for a friend of mine out there until I got back into kind of my line of work. And I was working for Seattle Pacific University then for a while. But yeah, still nothing film related at the time.
Yeah, that was my question, because you mentioned getting into writing and other avenues. Did you ever see, as a film fan, possibly pursuing the creative side of filmmaking, or no? Did you always have a business mind first for it, I guess?
I think I was kind of a late bloomer. and getting involved in film from a business perspective. And, I've done some small, production work on some things. I'm working on kind of a rough sketch of a script right now for a short, but again, like I turned 50 in a couple of days. And so this is something that came a little bit later for me, and I'm happy to have my role with this. But I enjoy playing around with the written word, I would say, with some of these little scripts and, short story development and things like that. But yeah, I would say like 90% of my work in film is definitely from that PR and publicity angle.
No, understood. And I guess just being absorbed and around it enough, I guess there's always an itch to kind of, write your own thing too, which makes sense. But yeah, no shame on being a late bloomer. I think all of Paper Street can relate to that too. We probably lost a few years staring at the sun before we jumped in fully too.
Yeah.
So as you then, transitioned into PR, marketing, were there maybe some unexpected like challenges or things that you just had no idea would be involved in, this career path you've chosen that have been kind of like interesting and kind of unexpected elements about the role?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, I've got a formal educational background in communications, and so I have some of the basic building blocks, but I think a lot of this has been, in a way, especially in working with Ted, we've kind of learned as we've gone, we've kind of what makes sense for Telluride and what kind of social media channels are making sense for the festival. I know that when I started with them, they didn't have a Instagram. And I had never even been to Telluride. And when I arrived, I'm like, well, we're missing an opportunity here where we can be marketing in the off season, just kind of showing off the beauty that is Telluride and its surroundings and so on. So I just think it's been a lot of like, I've never had a formal training in film PR, and then just sort of adapting to the film client and seeing, trying things out. And I think that's the beauty of working with the Telluride Horror Show is Ted and I have been able to bounce a lot of different ideas off of one another. And he's kind of let me try a few things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's jump into Telluride Horror Show. You explained a little bit about how you kind of got started, but it's interesting. Telluride was one of I believe it was the first genre festival in Colorado. So probably took a lot of work in those early years to, establish this reputation. Like you said, when you started, it didn't have an Instagram. I'm curious, like what it was like when you first started supporting the fest compared to, what people might think of now. And, what were some of those early challenges in trying to build on the success and grow the community around it?
Yeah, I think, I'm talking to Ted Wilson. He, and I saw this again in an interview the other day with Telluride Daily Planet, where he says that they sold 14 passes in the first year and the second year wasn't too much better. I think, Telluride is a destination festival, definitely. So we had to build trust with our audience. And then coming on board, I really didn't know much about the horror show, except what I saw in the lineup and the things that some of my friends like Brad would tell me about. But, I know in talking to Ted, he started the festival kind of having it in mind of just showing off a bunch of cool horror films to the locals. And since then, it's kind of blown up and it's become a destination where people travel from all over the country to see the latest and best horror films in Telluride, and what a great setting it is. But yeah, I can remember back in 2014 when I got a big hug in the lobby of the Sheraton because it was the first time that they had sold out a screening. And I think I remember it being the house is October built. And that was a big deal, and a big deal for Ted at the time and the festival to have coverage along the Front Range, where we were building more awareness in Denver and Colorado Springs, and getting people from the cities to come out and, take a chance on us to come out to the festival. And I feel like we've got a lot of repeat folks that come out, they fall in love with it, and then it becomes a tradition every year where it's maybe a girls' weekend, or it's, the family gets together, or they meet in Telluride. So yeah, I think I've seen it grow tremendously, but early on, again, really just shoestring budget, and just really kind of trying to do more of a grassroots marketing around it through our street marketing and any kind of organic social media we could get going.
Yeah, and I mean, jumping to nowadays, it being its 14th year, it's like become such, like you said, a beloved destination festival maybe one of the best. There's no data on this, I'm sure, but there might be one of the best guest return rates for a fest I've ever seen, because I know our team has added like multiple members each year we've been able to attend, and all start talking about returning every time someone else has gone. They're like, yeah, we're in for the next one. So yeah, the return rate is so high, not just for the community, which we'll touch on too, but just, yeah, the idea of like, once you see Telluride, there is a bit of magic to the place. It is certainly a destination fest.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a world-class destination resort. And sometimes, that comes with a little bit of a price tag, but I see that we've kept our passes reasonable over the years. They haven't gone up too much since I've been with them in the last 9 years. And I just see that our fans get it. They find a way to get out there to Telluride, but we do have some of those factors. I'll tell you that we kind of have to work against as we're marketing the festival, is some of the the costs that are involved with a place like Telluride that we love. But again, to be realistic, but again, building the trust with the people that we see year after year. And, this is my 8th festival. This is my 9th festival. I think that's a testament to the product that Ted and the programmers have put together.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the conversation a lot at the end of the fest I have with other people. See you next year, and we always try and introduce people to the fest, and we'll kind of help them get out there, maybe give them a ride in or whatnot, and then we get them converted, and now they're Telluride Horror Show fans for life.
Right.
How would you describe the community around the Telluride Horror Show? Because I think it's pretty different than other fests I've attended.
Yeah, I think the thing that I love about the Telluride Horror Show is we don't have different levels of passes where, you're a VIP, so you can get it, you can get into this party or not. You have to stay out. We kind of keep it really kind of even across the board. And I feel like it's a great way for our festival goers to mingle with filmmakers. I think filmmakers enjoy the laid back setting of hanging out with our fans, and we don't have as much, pomp and circumstance as you see around some of the other festivals. We often get the question, like, where's the step and repeat? Where's the red carpet? And, we kind of like have to, educate folks on, the banner with the mountains in the background, that's where you want your photo. And so, yeah, it is a little different. It's a little more laid back, I think, and in a way where I feel like authors and filmmakers and festival goers, they can all kind of be together in a way that's, there are no stations and whatnot, if you will.
No, it's a pretty fair assessment. Like you said, in the price point, you don't keep it insane because you do know there's costs associated with the fact that it's remote. So if you're not driving in, the flights can be expensive and such. I will recommend, I think the Airbnbs are still reasonable if you don't mind, holing up with your friends who you go there with. But I will say, to your point about the crowd, I've been to a lot of different festivals. I think this is one of the lowest percentage of just impress me type of asshole horror fans, if I do say so. I know, right. Speaking on behalf of Paper Street, we brought a silly horror comedy anthology there twice now, and it has been like a warm, welcoming crowd of horror fans who want to like things. They're not like sitting there saying, please impress me, like some other cities and fests might be. So yeah, I fully vouch for the fandom there as, again, one of the most welcoming horror fan crowds we've seen.
Absolutely. And I think our fans are like, we even surprise us sometimes. Like, we'll get a guest who's really big in the genre, and we'll put it up against a film like, what was it, Sator I can't remember the name of that film a few years ago.
Yeah, Sator. Yeah.
Sator. And that screening, we had to add another screening. I mean, that was such an obscure film, but our fans love that shit. They love to seek out the stuff that they might not see right away on Shudder or, any other streaming service. So yeah, I love that about our fans. I love that they're not like starstruck by everything, and they want to find that film that's unique. So yeah.
Oh, totally. And I got to use this to shout out Sator. I highly recommend the movie to anybody.
Oh, I do too, by the way.
Yeah, Jordan Graham is like incredible. The filmmaker there. He wrote, directed, shot, starred, did the effects. Just an amazing, brilliant film. And but I think that's your point, is this was an obscure movie made by pretty much one person that people were lining up to see. That was amazing, because I think people love the craft of filmmaking that are there. They're fans of the genre, and they're just fans of like that genuine spirit, and they want to see somebody that's like, wow, they made a horror movie all on their own. I want to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just kind of reminds me of the Addams Family too. And they gave us one of the biggest compliments last year, that they make horror films so they can come to Telluride. Of course, they might premiere it at Fantastic Fest or what have you, but they love coming to Telluride. They said your fans get it. They get the indie film thing. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I just feel like it's really, the hashtag watch indie horror, which Ted came up with and didn't come up with, but was like, let's hammer that one home a couple of years ago. I mean, I think we all believe in that. Yeah, of course, we're reaching out to some of the bigger distributors for a film to anchor the closing night at times, but like a majority of our films really are that indie film. So,
yep, and I have the Watch Indie Horror shirt from Telluride, and I get a lot of people asking me about that shirt. So
that's great.
Good call to Ted.
Yeah.
There's we talked a bit about the destination aspect of it and how the fandom, maybe it's a Colorado of it all. You guys are just a more chill people in general. But yeah, the fans do come from everywhere. They don't come like looking to be impressed. They look come and have fun. But also that destination is so special as a place that like, and this isn't a slight on the fest, but like it's almost like the lineup does not matter as much as it might at a buyer's festival or one of the more highbrow festivals. Like it's a good thing that they come there just wanting to see good movies. And you guys do an amazing job curating those movies. But the destination being what it is, the gondola, the recreational enhancements you can get there, the beauty of just the town, especially when it's snowing. But like, yeah, all that makes it such a special experience. But can you tell us and tell the folks out there, I should say, what makes Telluride Horror Show itself special compared to other genre fests? Like something that came to mind first was just like the creepy campfire stories, for example, and what Becky and Brad do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think using our natural elements and trying to do a little bit more outside. Although, in October, we just never really know what the weather's going to do. But I think that's one thing we could do compared to other festivals where you might be walking out of the theater into a parking lot or, a downtown street where we're able to do like a bonfire where we have some of the world renowned genre authors come in and read excerpts from their books and things like that. And yeah, the gondola and just stepping out of a theater and just being surrounded by mountains. And it's my understanding that this year, the leaves are going to be the most magnificent of any festival that we've had. So we had a very healthy year of rain and warm weather. So we're looking forward to that. So I think it's just unique in that, people are there to watch movies, but they're also there to enjoy the beauty of Telluride.
Yeah, it's definitely nice when you get an experience in a theater and then you walk out and then you can just breathe in the fresh air, and there's so many other things to enjoy in town. And
right.
It's interesting because it's such a small town. You'd think, oh, wow, what is there to do? But there's actually quite a bit. And it's really nice because it just takes over the whole town. So it's like you can go walk into a bar or grab lunch and you're probably going to be sitting next to other horror fans and you can chat about the movies you saw. And I met a lot of friends at the festival that way just by, showing up and like, hey, what are you going to check out next? What are you going to watch? And I haven't, a lot of other festivals I go to, it's in a big city. So it's like you're kind of just, you just walked out of a really cool movie and you want to talk about it. And maybe you'll go down to a restaurant and you're just sitting with all the normies, right?
Right.
And so I've always appreciated that. And it's, again, back to the community a bit, that people are just really happy and friendly to and want to chat about the movies, which is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of back to that was just like, you get and kind of what's different about ours too, is you get to Telluride, you park your car and you can keep it parked for the weekend. Our venues are close together. It's easy to walk from one theater to the next. There's enough to do. There are hikes nearby. There's the gondola that you can hop on, which is free. Yeah, you can do all of these things without having to get into your vehicle. And, where I've been to other theaters where you're driving from one part of the city to the other, and you're hoping to get there by the time the screening starts. So I do like that. You just you get there and it's just like one deep breath when you get out of your car. And you don't really have to get behind the wheel again for another 3 days. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely love that. And if you're tired of walking from one end of town to the other, you can always jump on the Galloping Goose.
The Galloping Goose. Yes, that's an option too. Yeah.
So what are you excited about the most for this year's festival in particular?
Well, I mean, this lineup is really strong, and talking to our programmers and the things that I've probably watched most of the short films and maybe a third of the features. Some of the highly anticipated features that I probably won't get to see before the festival, like When Evil Lurks, of course. I think everybody's looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction of people coming out of the theater after the coffee table. That thing stuck with me for a couple days. So I guess I'm just really excited about this lineup. I think we've got quite a few indie filmmakers coming in to represent their films, so it's going to be fun to meet some of these young filmmakers and kind of see what they're up to next. But yeah, I would say the authors are strong, but a couple of these films, I'm just really kind of anxious to see what people have to think, especially seeing them in a theater, which is a much different experience. Like, seeing Frogman at home is going to be a much different experience than seeing it with 200 people in a theater. So I guess I'm just really excited to see the crowd reactions on a few of these this year and see what people have to say. So
yeah, shout out to Scare Package 1 and 2 segment director Anthony Cousins, and congrats to him on Frogman, who he will be there in person as some folks are listening to this. Telluride is either happening or has passed, and he'll have been there with Frogman.
Absolutely. We're excited to have Anthony back for, I think, the third time, maybe the fourth time. Now that you said
I was going to say he's popped in for us with Scare Package, I think, twice as well, along with some of his shorts.
And then when Susurrus Stirs, I think he might have been in Telluride in 2014 or 15 or whenever that one. So yeah, he's been back a few times. We're excited to see him again and see what he can bring with his feature film Frogman. So yeah.
Yep, and I know he competed in trivia last year, so we'll see if he's back to try and inch his way up. Didn't quite secure first place last time, but was close. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned some of the movies. I was going to ask you a little bit about the lineup. You mentioned The Coffee Table, which when Brad immediately walked out of that because he saw it at Fantastic Fest, he was like, "Put this on your list to see. You got to see it." So I'm really excited about that one. It's a Wonderful Knife, Late Night with the Devil, Suitable Flesh. Be my first. I remember my first year at Telluride. Joe Lynch's Mayhem was playing. So good to have another Joe Lynch movie at Telluride. But I'm stoked, and I'm really stoked for the horror comedy shorts. I think it's The Vault of Horrors is what it's called this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the shorts at Telluride are really strong compared to, they're often kind of, the short segments are often overlooked at other festivals in favor of features. But I really do think the programming at Telluride Horror Show is very strong, and people will come in droves, especially to see the horror comedies. I know that one's always in one of the larger venues because it's so popular. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our fans love the shorts blocks. I think we pack the theater almost every time. And I remember a filmmaker, I don't know, back, I think it was like 2016 or 17. And I won't name any names, but came at me like, what? Why is my film being programmed at 10 in the morning on a Sunday? Are you kidding me? Kind of like, and and we had to turn people away from the screening because we packed the Sheridan Opera House. And afterwards, she was like, "Okay, I get it now." But yeah, our festival goers will roll out of bed for the short film programs for sure. I've watched, I think, all of the shorts in the Bumps in the Night block, and yeah, there were a few that really got me. And I'm watching them on my laptop. So I can't wait to see them in the theater. So, yeah. Ooh, yes. Always some really good jump scares in the Bumps in the Night. So I'm excited for that.
But yeah, we can't speak highly about this enough. Becky and I have done plenty of movie promotions on here for like indie films and stuff, and we try to drop them right around release dates. This is the first time I've ever said like, let's full on like promote a festival because Paper Street loves this one. And again, the connection with Becky and Brad and you guys, you've all been wonderful to us. Crowd's been wonderful to us. We can't recommend this fest enough. We didn't put this episode out thinking folks were going to like suddenly, book a trip to Colorado tomorrow or as this episode drops necessarily, but just any folks who find this later, this is one of those destination festivals that we can't recommend enough. Like once you go, you do get hooked. So yeah, we're happy to promote it. Always, check out Telluride Horror Show. Travis started the Instagram. It's worth a follow as well. And in the show notes at Paper Street Podcast, we'll be sure to like tag a bunch of Telluride horror stuff so folks can find it wherever they use social media.
Excellent.
Yep, and this year it's kicks off on a Friday the 13th, and this is special to me because my first Telluride horror show was also on a Friday the 13th, and it's the anniversary of when Brad and I met for the first time. So it's our Friday-versary, and I can't think of a better place to be doing it than at the Telluride Horror Show.
That's awesome. Do you remember which movie you saw first?
We met at a party first. But I remember the first movie we saw together where we sat next to each other was Creep 2, which was awesome.
Excellent. We were happy to have the director there for that one. I remember we did the
Yes.
world premiere for that. Yep.
Yes, was a big fan of Creep, and I think I even liked the second one better. So that was a awesome early relationship memory. It's our meet cute, if you will.
I love it.
Well,
Nice.
and yeah,
Midnight meat train cute.
Midnight meat train cute. Yes, perfect. That's well, that concludes the formal portion of the interview, Travis. And so we're going to jump to the rapid fire 15, which is somewhat tailored around you, where we're just going to ask you about a lot of your favorite stuff. No pressure.
Okay. No worries.
No, Travis, this is closer to the Proust questionnaire on Inside the Actor Studio, but we just kind of gave it like a genre twist. So there's some questions we ask everybody, then there's some we kind of tailor towards you, hopefully. So yeah, again, nothing. First thing that comes to mind, not a cool test or anything. Just let us know what. Yeah, hello. Go ahead, Becky.
All right, stop talking, Sean. All right,
Yep.
question
Tired,
one.
Very tired.
Question one: what movie do you think you have seen the most in your life?
Easily Fargo.
Oh wow, there wasn't a moment of hesitation there. You knew it.
No, and I am a diehard fan of the television series too. Yeah.
I trailed off that one, not because it wasn't great. I just never picked back up after season 2. I need to do that.
I will say that I think the season 1 and 2 I enjoyed. 3, the last one I can't. Yeah, season 4 I wasn't so into, but I'm hoping for some good things in this 5th season coming out. I think here in a couple months.
Sounds like I fell off right at the right spot then, according to Travis.
Yeah.
Question 2, what's the first film that really scared you or stuck with you or gave you nightmares as a kid?
It was a weird film called The Beast Within. There was a kind of it was set in the South. It was like an 70s or 80s film. And I just remember this transformation scene where he was ripping out of his skin. And it was like kind of I just remember seeing that as a very little kid, kind of that don't tell mom that we watched this kind of thing. And that would be the first one. I'd say The Exorcist was early on too. And I think The Exorcist freaked me out. I mean, I grew up in a family, a pretty religious, conservative family, believe it or not. And so I think that was taboo too. Some of those films like The Exorcist that I shouldn't be watching, like I was inviting something in.
Ooh, yeah. I definitely have some good early memories of The Exorcist, but thank you for reminding me. I've heard of The Beast Within, and it's been on my watch list forever, so I need to check that one out.
I would be interested to go back and watch it and see if it holds up at all, but I just remember that scene I couldn't get out of my head as a kid. I was probably 6 or 7 when I saw it.
And apparently Tom Holland wrote it.
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Future deep cut.
Question 3. What is your favorite horror movie franchise?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
This
Probably
trips people up.
Package.
Oh.
No, that's right up there, though. I thought I would earn a point there. Scare Package. I'm trying to think what else as far as franchises go. Oh, boy. That's a tough one for me.
We can leave it at Scare Package. I'm sure Sean won't complain.
Yeah, points earned. I'll take them.
Yeah, he'll take the points.
Yeah, points earned. I saw I wouldn't say it was my favorite, though. I watched every Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched every Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think. But wow, I don't know that I have a definitive favorite franchise.
It's kind of hard because you got to think about it holistically.
Yeah, like what was the fourth one about? What was that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that one.
No worries. That one does throw some people because they may have a favorite individual film.
Right.
Like they may love the first Halloween, but then are like, I don't know about the franchise, though.
That's how I'm with Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Following that, similar vein, what is your favorite horror movie subgenre?
I would probably say psychological thriller. It changes every other year, though. I mean, as a kid, it was it was Possession. I went through a slasher phase. I would say right now, any kind of mind-bending psychological thriller would be my favorite.
Something like a Jacob's Ladder vein is up your alley.
Absolutely. Love Jacob's Ladder, Silence of the Lambs, although some people may say not horror, but again, one of my favorite films. So
Not on this podcast.
not on
It's
this.
horror.
Yeah. There's no gatekeeping where you scream about Jaws and Alien, all the movies that are these rigid definitions. Not here.
Okay, good.
Okay, question 5. Is there a movie or a show or a song that always makes you cry?
Yeah, Life is Beautiful. Do you remember that film?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Roberto Benigni.
yes, that movie just, I think about it and I get choked up kind of, that was the way he told that story in such a way. Yeah, that one will make me cry. Yeah, definitely.
Without spoiling, if you can, unless it's like a 50-year-old movie, do you have a favorite twist ending in a film or a couple that come to mind, maybe?
Favorite twist ending in a film. Trying to think of a good one that I've seen recently. I mean, I don't have one that comes to mind. I'm sorry.
Star Wars, Fight Club. None of
Oh, Fight Club. I can think of Sixth Sense was. I mean, at the time, I didn't really know what was going on until the end when it started. Where they started playing it back for you, and I remember that was pretty cool. But yeah.
All right, question 7. Who is your favorite horror filmmaker?
Oof. Right now, I would say Ari Aster, or Jordan Peele. I just watched Get Out again last night. But going back, boy, there's so many good ones. I mean, I would say John Carpenter overall, he'd be right up there for sure. The Thing, and yeah, I would say he would be right up there for sure for a horror filmmaker for me.
All right, getting off of genre for a minute, but maybe not. Could be involved in the answer here. It's this one usually tells on people's age and kink sometimes. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Alyssa Milano when I was a little kid because we were the same age. And yeah, seeing her on Who's the Boss was probably one of my first memories of being moved by somebody of the opposite sex. So yeah, I would say if we're telling the truth here, I would say her when I was a little kid, probably around age 10.
That checks out.
Yeah. Age me a little bit.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same generation as you, so don't worry. Without telling on us, too bad. Me and another one of the Paper Street folk maybe had VHS tapes of Embrace the Vampire and Poison Ivy 2 passing around at the time.
I remember those.
Yeah. We know.
Yeah.
All right. What is a luxury you cannot live without? Figuratively, like coffee, chocolate.
It's good coffee. Yeah, easily. Good coffee. If I wake up and I have watered down coffee or bad coffee and I don't have access to good coffee, yeah, that is one thing that I can't live without.
Quickest answer you've had for that one. So, number 10, Travis, you've seen a lot of festival screenings. Do you have a very memorable theatrical experience or screening? It could be at Telluride or otherwise. The crowd was hot. It was perfect. It played just right. Like it's a good memory of a screening in your mind.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I mean, one that I attended that was, I remember, it was a festival screening that I attended where I remember it was the high energy was the world premiere of The Purge, and that was at the Stanley Film Festival years ago. And being a part of that first screening and coming out of that was pretty memorable. Telluride Horror Show, trying to think of VFW was right up there when we screened that Sheridan Opera House. I think people really got into that one.
I think the filmmakers were taking shots on stage right before.
Taking shots on stage, and I think pouring shots into the mouths of festival goers. So that might have had something to do with it. But it was very memorable. I remember that.
Awesome. Well, that's 2 good answers for that one. All right. Question 11. Do you have a favorite concert that you've attended or a memorable concert experience?
Yes, I've got a couple. I would say Bjork at Red Rocks. And that was in the rain. I just remember the whole production, not just the music, but everything she had going behind her, the film and everything, that multimedia kind of production value, that was huge. And then when I saw I think Nine Inch Nails during their, I don't know if they called it the Downward Spiral tour in '94, that supported that album anyway. Those two concerts stand out. I think Alison Krauss and Union Station at Red Rocks is another one. So yeah, sorry I gave you three.
That's okay. There's no rules.
Yeah, it doesn't have to just be one answer. Just if a few come to mind, that's all good. We've talked internally about the food at Telluride, the poutine at Floridora, and some other great stuff there. Best tacos some folks have ever had, great burgers. Do you personally, Travis, have what is, in your opinion, basically the best place to stop and grab a bite to eat in Telluride?
Oh, I mean, I think a staple. I mean, every year there's a Brown Dog Pizza stop, and I usually order big so I can have leftovers back at the condo. But having a last dinner at Sheridan Chop House, if you've got the time, is pretty divine. I definitely have to make a coffee stop at the Coffee Cowboy every time I'm in Telluride. And again, they've moved their cart from Colorado Boulevard, the main drag, down to the gondola now. But yeah, usually at Brown Dog, Coffee Cowboy, and if I've got time to do a nice steak dinner at the Sheridan Chop House, I'll do that. But yeah, I really like those places. But man, like Siam Thai's right up there. Yeah, the poutine, Floridora, Butcher and the Baker. I mean, I'd be happy at any of these places.
There's a surprising amount of restaurants for how small the town is, but it makes sense with the clientele that are coming in for ski season, that they need to impress people with good food. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think the restaurants and the bars in town are learning, or they learned a few years ago, that the Telluride Horror Show brings a nice pop to what would be a dead month, kind of in the off season in October. And now they're learning, like, we better staff up. And more of the restaurants are staying open now for the festival. So yeah, great places to eat and drink. And yeah.
Awesome. Question 13. We're almost through. What's your favorite hike in Colorado? Like somewhere you take someone that's maybe out of town to kind of get the authentic Colorado experience. And I know you're a pretty big hiker, Travis. So it might be hard for you to pick a favorite.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of ones that I've done recently this summer. There's one, and I live down in Salida now. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes southwest of Denver and like 3.5 hours from Telluride. But I've been trying to explore some of the hikes here in Chaffee County a little bit more. And up on Cottonwood Pass, I hiked Ptarmigan Lake, which was a really cool hike in that you're not just getting the forest, and then all of a sudden there's a clearing and a mountain and a lake, but there's openings and like different forests that you are going through. The ground cover is beautiful, but then you get into these areas where there is a clearing and you've got mountains surrounding you. But then at the hike you get up to the lake there, and you just see like rainbow trout swimming everywhere, and that was a really cool hike that stands out recently. And I'd say another one was just a little local hike that I did. I hadn't been back to Crested Butte in some time, but seeing the fall color there was incredible. And was just there a couple of weeks ago, and it was just sort of a lower loop closer to the town, but just the fall color and all the mountain views from there were pretty incredible. Yeah, I'd go with Ptarmigan Lake if anybody wanted to ask me of a good hike around here. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds great.
Penultimate question here, a little more existential. Maybe something you think about at the top of one of these hikes. If you could have the answer to one unknown question in the universe, what would it be? Examples being like the origin of meaning of life. Is there a God? Who killed JFK? When will I die? Is there one unknown question you'd have answered if you could?
I would say I'm going to use that example that you gave me. It would be, is there a God? And I think, again, it comes back to me growing up in the church, that was just sort of the way we were raised. And, I still think the older you get, I feel like the more questioning you have. And I talk to some of my other friends who are actually, pastors or professors of theology, and they're like, the more questions that you have, the more faith you have. And I'm like, I don't get that, but whatever. I would say, yeah, that would be a good one.
It's not what happened to me either.
Right? Is there a higher power? Is there a God? I think that's a good one.
Hopefully, would resolve some conflict
Right.
if we knew the truth. All right, question 15, the final question of the rapid fire 15. So if you were to program a double feature that would show kind of your two wolves, like two different or unexpected sides of you, what do you think it would be?
So maybe a double feature that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Perhaps.
We don't like the
Um,
term guilty pleasure, but yeah, maybe like a Fargo, and then one of those comedies you kind of know is bad and you love it anyway. So yeah, not to lead you on with an answer, but that's kind of what
well,
we're
no,
getting at.
I was thinking Fargo, but So I Married an Axe Murder would open
Ah,
that double feature
I like that as a twofer.
as a
it's
twofer.
yeah, they're very
Doesn't make any sense,
different,
I know.
but they somehow make sense together. Like I think some of the comedic sensibilities are similar.
Some of the dry.
I like that. Well, you made it. You survived.
I'm sorry. I really appreciate you having me on your show. I really do. I stumbled through a few of these answers. I haven't been on a podcast in a little while, but I really had a blast talking with you two today.
Sam, and don't worry, that's what editing's for.
Right? All
We
right.
stumble all the time.
Well, not just that. We know you, like you said, you've been so busy with the announcements, the lineups, all that stuff that like we're asking you all these like existential questions and what's your favorite this? And you're like, I just stopped thinking for like the first time in days. So like, yeah, no, we appreciate that you could spout anything out of there. Like we know how frazzled it can be leading up to a festival.
Well, I appreciate it. It sounds like you have your work cut out with editing.
Oh no, not at all. You were
That's not
fantastic.
bad.
But it's funny, the rapid fire 15 often gets a lot of like deer in the headlight reactions because it's
Yeah.
like, I've never thought about that before. I don't know. So it stumps a lot of people that are otherwise very quick on their feet. So you
Right.
did fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on Paper Street. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Becky, and Telluride. I don't know. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity and giving Telluride a voice.
No, we're happy to do it. Like I've said, it's a festival we love. We're very upset we couldn't make it work this year because we're kind of all in the wind right now, doing some different things. And yeah, it's one of those there's no doubt in our minds that we won't be planning every year that it's possible to make it back to it. And again, this is something we're happy to promote. If folks hear this any time of the year, just keep in the back of your mind, Telluride in October. There's not much better on the planet Earth, and we do mean that.
Well, I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Travis. And I am looking forward to another awesome year at Telluride and looking forward to catching up with you, maybe at Brown Dog. We'll get a Brooklyn Bridge together or something. But thanks again for your time and you take care.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it, Travis. Thank you.
Thank you.